Hoy estamos hablando de los cambios de asilo. Voy a empezar en inglés, después español. Como siempre, puede poner sus preguntas. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you have a nice cup of coffee with you. I got some delicious coffee with me this morning. Maybe some of that mind wind stuff that we got going brewing down here. But anyways, some new changes brewing as well in the world of asylum law. You probably have heard the news. If not, you'll hear it later on today. Biden administration prepares sweeping change to asylum process. Some people are calling it the biggest change to asylum law ever. It is quite drastic, especially if we're talking about folks who are at the border. And this is the Biden administration attempt to fix the backlog of cases that are occurring. There's some 670,000 pending asylum cases before our immigration court system. Now, let me give you a little bit of background of what it's like right now. When someone tries to come across the border right now, the Biden administration is still using the very racist Title 42 to say, we're going to expel you no matter what. Right? So number one, Biden, you got to get rid of that before you can be claiming to do anything in favor of migrants. Right? So get rid of that. Number two, let's say that is gone. The normal process is, if you're put in what's called expedited removal proceedings, you've been in the country for less than 2 weeks within 100 miles of the border, the only way to stop that is to say you're a U.S. citizen or to say you have a fear of returning to your country of origin. That starts what's called the credible fear process. So if you express that fear, they're not supposed to deport you. They're supposed to give you an interview with an asylum officer to determine whether or not you do have a credible fear. If you win credible fear, then you're passed over to the immigration judge, you're given an NTA, you're allowed to appear before a judge to present your case. Here's where the drastic change is. So USCIS is the one that do the asylum initial screening of credible fear. What the Biden administration is proposing, they're proposing that USCIS is still going to do the initial interview. This is anybody in expedited order removal proceedings. Hey, we're going to deport you. Oh, wait, you're afraid? Okay. You're going to get your screening. Doesn't count for juveniles. Juveniles are not going to be taken in this process, just for adults. You have your initial screening with an asylum officer. If you win that screening with the asylum officer, then you're set for another interview, but not with the judge, with an asylum officer with USCIS. This is where it's a drastic change. So instead of going in front of a judge and presenting your asylum case, which could take years, we have cases now that we've gone through this process, we're about 5 years out, and we're still waiting for the final hearing before the judge. So it is very true. But instead, and it could be in custody, it could be out of custody, it all depends on the person and whether or not they're given parole. They then have their final, what would be the trial essentially, in front of an asylum officer instead of in front of an immigration judge. Now, me as an attorney, I always fall back on the adversarial process. The best way to get to the truth is to have one side, in this case the government, are fighting against. This side, the person seeking asylum with their attorney fighting for, letting the judge see through everything and decide the case, right? That's traditionally adversarial process what we have in the United States. I don't like it for asylum. I've done enough asylum trials like this that at the end of it, your client feels like they're getting attacked, ambushed, discredited, and it's really just hours-long focus on trying to find one, us lawyers are the most annoying people in the world, trying to find one inconsistency in the story to then go at the person and attack them that their entire story is not true. So part of me really likes this, right? And I'm supposed to get out here and say everything that are related to Biden is bad because of the deportation machine, these guys, but look at, part of me as a human being, as an advocate says, I would rather have someone screened in a non-adversarial type setting where they've been through this trauma, they've been through devastation, they've been through horror, and not be in the attack courtroom setting, but instead be in a setting with hopefully a very well-trained in trauma asylum officer versus a very arrogant and ignorant trial attorney from ICE and immigration judge who's overworked, overburdened, underpaid, understaffed, right? So I hope that that change does come about in a positive manner. Now, the negative to that, which is huge, is due process, which we're concerned about. Because right now, our asylum cases, we take the time to do proper briefing, get documentation, interpret, translate, right? Documents come from foreign countries. It takes a long time to prepare a good asylum case. Prepare your client multiple times for the questions, for the interviews, etc., etc. They're very much trying to make it a rapid court, get it done fast. Which if you win, that's great. You have asylum versus waiting for 5 years, and who knows what's going to happen. But if you lose and you don't have access to an attorney, that's the part that really gets me nervous. Now, they've done a lot. They've done a lot to address these concerns. If you'll see here is a 512-page document where the Biden administration proposed this rule. People have submitted comments. They are now, what's popular today is they're now announcing, okay, here's our response to these comments. And they've changed some of their plan based on the comments that were submitted. And they're going another step and saying, hey, we want more comments to our comments to your comments. So your comments are important. Get in there and spread the word of what you want to see in here. And mainly, the ones that I've read through here, they're all the government trying to address concerns from immigrants' rights, human rights advocates saying we need more due process in here. And there is a process in place to, if we don't like the asylum officer's decision, to appeal that to the immigration judge. And then that process is also outlined here and is it's a faster process. And I think it's still going to be difficult for immigration judges to adhere to that, given how backlogged they are, but it's got some ambition to it, right? So as human beings, we fear change. We don't like change. This one, I'm nervous about it from the due process angle, but I'm also excited at the possibility of having asylum being a little bit more humane, because how we're doing it right now, to me, it's not the weight. The weight is the weight. It is what it is. But it's the adversarial process of having a trial attorney for ICE, a judge, and you're getting basically 2 against 1 against your client. It definitely needs some overhaul to take into consideration the trauma that folks have been through. Okay? So ahí está, comunidad. Lo que estamos hablando hoy es un cambio que hizo la administración de Biden sobre asilo. No afecta, okay, quiero estar muy claro, no afecta a nadie que está dentro del país. Si usted está aquí en el país y ya tiene su caso en frente del juez, todo es igual. Si usted quiere aplicar por asilo y está viviendo en el país y ya logró cruzar, todo va a quedar igual. Lo que ha cambiado son las personas que van a entrar y todavía no van a empezar por como 2 meses. Okay? So por como 2 meses, claro que sí, mi placer. Thanks for tuning in. Por 2 meses todavía estamos esperando este cambio. ¿Qué va a ser el cambio? Todavía no es terminado. Una semana más, ellos quieren más comentarios. Pero es así. Una persona que cruza la frontera la va a poner en proceso de deportación rápido. Si tiene menos de 2 semanas en el país y más de 100 días desde la frontera. No hay cambio ahí. Para parar esa deportación rápido, tiene que decir que tiene miedo a regresar a su país de origen. Cuando dices eso, ya tienes una entrevista con miedo creíble, con un oficial de asilo, igual que hoy. El cambio es que si gana esa entrevista, normalmente hoy va con el juez de migración y el caso puede durar años, pero lo que están diciendo ya al Biden es, en vez de mandarlo con un juez, de mandarlo con otro oficial de asilo para una determinación final de si ganas asilo o no ganas asilo. Que para mí es mejor, porque lo que yo quiero es un sistema más justo. El sistema que tenemos ahorita en las agencias de asilo que yo he hecho es mucho pelea, abogados tontos, abogados de ICE, el juez, interrogando, confrontando, intentando a convencer a la persona que no sufrió abuso o está diciendo mentiras. Se llama confrontational, ¿verdad? Como una pelea, ¿quién va a ganar? Así es el estilo de justicia en Estados Unidos. Lo que me gusta mucho es la posibilidad de tener acceso a justicia diferente. Una entrevista, una persona ojalá bien entrenado en trauma, en cómo hablar con gente que ha sufrido mucha violencia, agarrar su historia y dar espacio para que ellos cuenten su historia. Esa parte me gusta más. Lo que tengo miedo es que si no gana, si todavía va a tener chance de apelar, acceso de justicia, acceso de abogados, eso sí es problema, ¿verdad? Pero el cambio, en mi opinión, sí es algo que vale la pena que intentamos hacer este cambio, porque la manera que estamos haciendo asilo es muy mal ahorita dentro del país. ¿Okay? Si tiene preguntas, comentarios, por favor póngalos abajo, con gusto yo lo puedo contestar. Si no estás viendo en vivo, después también yo lo puedo contestar las preguntas. Ese es el cambio ahorita que está anunciando. Una semana más de comentarios quiere el gobierno de Biden. Después de 60 días van a implementar esos cambios en la frontera. No sabemos dónde va a empezar, pero más probable empieza aquí en Arizona y a lo mejor un lugar en California, pero no sabemos de seguro todavía. Cuando hacemos más información, hacemos otro video. Por mientras, sí es importante que usted, por favor, compartir estas noticias, porque hay una semana más de poner comentarios. Si usted quiere leerlo y decirle, mire, eso es yo estaba en proceso, aquí es lo que debe ser el proceso en vez de como yo sufrí, o es algo que usted ya tiene tiempo de hacerlo por una semana más. ¿Okay? Muchísimas gracias, comunidad, que tiene excelente día, y aquí esperamos cualquier pregunta, 602-910-4040, márcanos o mándanos un texto. Nos vemos.